Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So before we dive into our plan for today, I want to have a quick retrospective in regards to our recent videos. One thing that have occurred to me is that most of our recent videos have little or no engagements. And one thing that people may wonder about engagement is it always has to be positive. And that's the issue. An engagement doesn't have to be always positive. An engagement is an avenue to let the creator, in this case myself, to know what I'm doing exactly. So for instance, if you feel my videos are not really engaging enough and they are not interesting as they used to, then you can leave a comment as to what I'm doing wrong and how you feel it can get better. That way we can learn from ourselves. Because like I've said in the past, it's all about learning. Nobody is an island of knowledge. And also, if you feel my videos are okay and you are getting some benefits out of it, then I'll recommend you like it by clicking on the thumbs up button, or you drop a comment telling me what I'm doing well. So having those information gives me an idea of what I'm doing. So I thought I should share that so that the whole thing can be engaging as it should be. So with that out of the way, let's move on to our plan for today. So at the end of the last episode, I created a repo for this and pushed that update to the repo. So if you've not seen the link, I would share it again in this episode so that you can follow along. Also, in the last episode, I made a mistake. So if I come back to my app and page, I actually set the container information on the page here, which is meant to be the index page for the project. That's contrary to the expectation because that's what the layout is meant to do. So the layout component here is meant to transmit throughout all your other components, unless you have a separate layout within those components that overrides this. So as a result of that, most of our layout information should be within the layout. So to correct what we have here, we are going to bring in this container information down to the layout. So let's just run this server once again so as we get an idea of where we are. Alright, so this was what we had in the last episode, and what we want to correct is just having this layout on the layout component. So if we come back here, we can either set it on the body, which would work because according to our UI design, everything has this margin. So the margin left and right, it's available on all pages. So having the layout information on the body kinds of work as well. So yeah, I think we can work with that. So I would have the class name container on here. So I'll go back to the page here and remove the class name here. And if we go back to our URL, we should still have the same thing. Alright, so we are good. We've corrected that mistake. So moving on to the next ticket in our Trello, which is the creation of the reusable UI components. So we need to identify the UI components we think should be reusable and we can create. Coming back to Figma, we can identify the components that are reusable. And reusability in this case does not mean we only have to componentize reusable UIs. So what I mean here is, even though the header is going to be reusable across all pages, the search input itself still has to be componentized. So that's just something to note, because having it as such makes testing easier. So going back to the identification, we have the headers, we have the tag menu, we have this movie section. So this whole part is going to be a component. Then we have the blog component itself, this whole part. Then we have the most read, this whole part. And moving on, we have the comment component as well. Then I think we have the button components. This can be reused. And I think those are the components we are going to work with. So to make this even easier, you can list out the components so that you can keep track of what you are doing. And that's what I've done in the Trello board. So in here, we have the header, we have the footer. That's not indicated in the Figma, but technically we want to have a copyright reference as to what we are doing. Then we have the blog card, we have the modal to add comments, we have the drop down from the blog search, we have the comment card, we have the special card. So this is the special card. We have the search itself. We have the tag menu. So this should be tag menu. Then we have the badge. So what I mean here is that instead of having a component for the badge, we can just have a div that is classed badge. So that's going to be classed control. So these are the components we are going to be creating over the next couple of minutes. But before we get into it, I have some quick things we need to do. So we need to select the font we want to use, and the font I've decided to go with is the cabin font from Google. Then also we want to install the React icons package. With this, we can get icons for when it's needed. So let's quickly delve into those. So let's install the package first. So I can come back here, I can close my server, and I'll have yarn add the package. So we are done installing the package. We can start the server again, yarn dev. So we can always leave the server running. Then also we want to get the font to use. So we are going to be using the cabin font, so we can open it up and click on the font size we want to specify. So with those selected, I am going to use the imports, then copy this import information. Then come back to my style, then include this above here. So finally, I can come to my body and specify the font family. And we can get the font family coming back to Google and copy this. So now that we have our setup done, we can proceed to having our components. So for the components, we are going to create a new folder outside app, not inside the app. So we want to maintain page-related contents within the app. And the first component I want to create here is the search component. So we're going to ignore the drop-down for now, but we just focus on the search component. So I'll come here, I'll create a new file and call this search. So it's a component, so it should have the TSS extension. So I'll quickly write the component structure. So mind you, we are not writing any functionality at the moment. The only focus is just the UI. So what we are going to be dealing with is majorly the HTML tags. So just to test the components, we can import them within our index page and see what they look like. So coming back to the index page here, I can import the search components. Alright, so since we are having an issue, probably because we've not exported the search, so let's do that. So that's done, and now this is fixed. So we can come down here and include the search components. And now if you come back to our UI and refresh, now we have the search. So we can quickly style it to look like what we have within Figma. So I can come back here, copy the class name. So coming back to style the search, I've played around with some of the styles I feel will be comfortable. And here is the one I feel will be great for the search. If we come back to our browser, we are going to have this, which looks good. So now we are done with our search components. However, we still need to have the drop-down. Well, that won't be an issue now because the drop-down would only come up as a functionality. So we can ignore that for now. So now that we have the search component done, we can proceed to having the header component. So we can come back to our components and create a new one. So instead, we can just duplicate the search and edit accordingly. So for the header component and for HTML semantics, I'm going to have this as header. So that way, HTML understands that this is our header. And because this is a special tag, I don't need to have a class here. We're just going to reference that tag in our CSS. So for the header, we want to have the brand. So here we can have .brand. And the brand is blog grid. Then next we want to have the search component. So here we can have the search. So coming back to our index page. So instead of importing the search, now we are going to import the header. And the header should actually be above every other thing. So I can bring this here. And if you remember when we created the project, we have this as main. So I'll return this back as main, just for semantic analysis as well. So let's go back to the page and preview what this looks like. So here is what the header looks like so far, but we want to achieve this. So we can come here, and this is the font we are using for the brand. manual. So if you come back to our Google Fonts, we should be able to find this. Okay, unfortunately, this does not exist. So it's better to find a font on Google because it's easier to integrate rather than having a custom fonts. Custom fonts sometimes might be what you want. And I have a tutorial on how to include custom fonts. So I'll put the link to that somewhere at the top so that you can check it out. But our focus here is going to be simplicity. So we want to focus on what we can achieve in the simplest form. So we are going to find a font. Alright, so this is the one I've decided to go with, Righteous. And now that we have it, I can select the font style again. I'll come down here and import it as well. So I'll copy this, come back to my style, import it. Then for this, I want to define it as a brand font variable. So in here, I can have brand font. And I'll come back here and select the font family. And that's it. So now I've made some preparation in regards to our header. So next, I can target the header tag and style it. So after playing with the header style for a couple of seconds, here is what I went with. So for the brand, we specify the font family. Then here are the other style information. However, we encountered an issue. So if we come back to our UI, we can see that the search is closer to the brand, which should be at the other side. So the issue is mainly because of the 100% width we gave to the search, which I don't think is necessary. So I'll remove this, and that should fix our issue. So now the search is at the other side. So after removing that 100% width from the search, it's going to affect our width on the input. Because as you can see here, this is meant to have 100% space, but it's no longer going to have that. So what we can do instead is remove this and have the width for the input itself. And now if we go back, we have the width and it looks good. So far so good. We have two components. We have the search component and we have the header component. I'm not sure if the font size for the brand is enough. Let's adjust that a little. So coming back to the brand, let's give it a font size of 20 pixels. Alright, so that's more better. So guys, just to be time friendly, we are going to round up here and continue in the next episode. So to see our other videos, you can click on the playlist to see what we've done so far. Also, speaking of engagement, if you like the video, leave a thumbs up and leave a comment just to let me know what you think about the video. And also, if you do not like the video, leave a comment on what you think can be done better and we will improvise. So bye guys, see you in the next episode.